You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another show lined up for y'all. Man, today we're going to be talking about retaining valuable employees, and we have someone who is going to help us learn about HR and learning about all that is important with employees. And that guest that we have today is Donovan. She has an amazing website you can go check out. Is DonovanHRSolutions.com. And like I said earlier, we're going to kind of explore the idea of retaining valuable employees. But before we do that, I'll welcome Ann to the show and say, how you doing today?
Shamaya, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, we appreciate you taking time because I know you're busy, and thank you for sharing this value with our audience. Kind of introduce yourself to our audience. I kind of teased that you are in human resources, but you've been there for a while. You know what works and what doesn't work. Kind of give the audience a little backstory of you.
Happy to. So I started off in human resources many, many years ago when it was even before online recruiting was a thing. And I built my HR career from the ground up. I started as an admin and then moved into employment. And that's where I really fell in love with how impactful human resources can be on employees' lives. And I know that human resources gets a bad rap. It's where the police, where the principal's office, it's HR is all for the company. But my mission in life is to make the workplace better for everybody. And part of that mission is to change the perception of human resources. I view human resources as the Switzerland of the workforce, because we need to listen and work for the company, but then we also need to take care of the employees, because the employees are the biggest asset for any company. And so from many years ago, when that became my mission, I worked in large organizations, small organizations, and most recently, I leapt out of the corporate world and started my own company called Donovan HR Solutions. So that's just a little bit about me.
And like you said, HR is very important. I mean, there's so many, funny jokes that people can make online with memes, but in all seriousness, HR is a very important tool and resource. So for our audience, kind of explain the benefits of a company using HR to kind of be that middle ground and that bridge.
The Human Resources Department is, as I mentioned, to work for the employees and for the company. And HR typically doesn't generate revenue, though I have ideas on how they can. But they definitely have an impact on the bottom line, because they spend time and efforts recruiting employees. They spend time onboarding employees, and then with a focus on training and developing those employees in their current role and hopefully for future roles. HR has an impact when selecting the different benefits packages to offer, and they have an impact on the coming up with compensation and compensation ranges. And so my work is to work on retention strategies for companies, because turnover is a major cost for organizations. Typically, labor is one of the largest expenses that a corporation has. And so if they focus on retaining the people producing that labor, then that has a major impact on the bottom line. So the average turnover in the States is 18%. Now, statistics for turnover costs can range from anywhere from 2 times an employee's salary to 6 times their annual salary. So if you have an employee who makes $20 an hour, rough estimates is just they make $40,000 a year. And if that employee leaves, it could cost the company $80,000 just in time that you have to take to train somebody new, the job ads that you have to run, and the organizational knowledge that leaves. So, with HR departments focusing on the employee retention and the employee experience, they can save a lot of time and other resources for the organization.
And you make a great point about the risk factor, because if you do lose a individual that, I mean, they didn't just work there for X amount of years. They've learned the system of how, the core values are implemented day in, day out. And now you can find yourself in a situation where you have to teach that all over again. And all those years of experience, that value is now absent. So when you work with these companies, what has been some trends of what helps create, I guess, rapport, where the employees are contributing to the bigger picture with the company, but also the company is contributing to the employee to create a long-term relationship?
Well, I think that you mentioned it and you hit the nail on the head with strong core values. That if an organization has developed those, and it ties right along with the company's brands as well. But you tie those core values from the minute that you post that job ad, you bring those into the interviews, you carry them on through the onboarding, and then those are threaded throughout the entire employee experience, creating a great interviewing experience for the employee or the soon to be employed. You have a welcoming onboarding. And I'm sure that people have been part of an onboarding experience where it's, you're showing your desk and you're showing your laptop and you're saying, yep, here's a bunch of videos to watch. We'll see you tomorrow morning. It doesn't create a welcoming environment. And so creating that welcoming environment where you introduce the new employee to key stakeholders and the C-suite and take them out to lunch, just really start to get them ingrained into the culture. Then once the employee's hired, you have feedback sessions with them to find out how they're doing. It's everybody sends out customer surveys as soon as the customer leaves. You get them at the post office and Staples. You check out of a hotel and you get the survey the day after. So if we're so focused on the customer surveys, why not do employee surveys? Find out how the employee experience is. And you're not going to be able to action everything from those feedback sessions, but you'll be able to action some. But people are starving for communication, whether it's from their management, but they're starving for communication from other leadership. So one-on-one meetings are highly valuable. Having a strong performance management, and I'm not talking about performance management where it's you sit down for half an hour once a year, fill out a whole bunch of boxes and check them off, but have more regular performance management sessions so that employees know how they're doing. But not just how they're doing, use it as an opportunity to set goals, because humans want to grow, and they see success, then they'll grow even further. So have a strong performance management. And then training and development. 50% of employees who are surveyed say that they will stay in a position for 5 years or longer if there's a priority of training and development. And I'm not talking about here's your videos, just watch them, but people are starving for training and development. It's training in their current job and then development for future careers. So just a few things like that is what employees are starving for. And the organizations that are doing it right, they're holding on to their key players. They're not seeing the high turnover that their competitors are seeing.
I think that's key. What you are saying, they're hopefully doing what is necessary to prevent the key players to end up going to another competition. And with what you do, you help with workshops. So kind of touch on that with the audience, the things you do with companies and respect to leadership development workshops.
It's one of my favorite things. I really enjoy getting to know organizations and then tailoring the workshops for what their needs are. No organization is like any other. And so that tailoring piece is key. But I have worked with organizations and developed workshops on the compliance piece. So whether it's anti-harassment and anti-discrimination workshops, right now I'm working on a workshop for developing critical thinking. And so it's really what the organizations that reach out to me, I sit down with them, I listen to their needs and tailor that workshop around them. Another thing that I work on in those workshops is I don't lecture. I'm not a professor. I'm not a teacher, but I really like getting everybody engaged. And with those workshops, whether they're virtual or in person, it's really getting everybody engaged because I'm a firm believer that we're all going to learn something from everybody else, that the person standing in front of the room can get those creative juices working. But the more interactive the workshop is, the better it is for everybody involved. And then a key to the workshops is the follow-up. I've worked with different corporations and they say, oh, we hire in this team to do the leadership development and everybody's jazzed when they leave the room, but then everything falls flat. But it is the follow-up that is just as crucial as the workshops themselves. That if we don't keep working on these practices that we want to implement, then the work isn't going to get done and we're just going to fall back into old habits.
And with that said, by the way, listen, I'm Refocus Radio talking to our guest and Donovan. With that said, touching on the responsibility of the employee, I think that's everyone's favorite topic nowadays. Employees, I think more than ever, are a little bit more vocal, whether it's, outside of work or social media or whatever. They tend to be a little bit more vocal now with their experience with their day job. What do you think, for our listeners, for those who might be employed for, X place, what are some important responsibilities that employees should embrace and understand in order to see the bigger picture of what they do or don't like from their day-to-day routine?
Wow, such a great question. So I encourage people to be vocal, but there's a right way and a wrong way, just like with anything else. And the communication, people need to be more communicative. They need to be more willing to give feedback. But people also need to be respectful of their audience and with whom they are speaking. I think that integrity is one of the key emotions that leaders need. And with integrity comes honesty. And so you need to have those honest conversations. You need to be able to have that open door so that people can come in and have those honest conversations. That if both sides aren't willing to either speak up or listen, then it's going to continue to foster toxic environments where nobody wants to work. It's going to continue to foster those bad relations. And so if we do open up and have honest conversations, a lot more can get done. And so I think it's great that people are more vocal in their jobs and about their careers and what they need. But we also need to be more respectful in our communications.
And for employees out there who are trying to work up the ladder, I mean, we do have those. I don't think there's anything wrong with people who want to work up the ladder. I think there's benefits of working for the big guy and then, preparing yourself for maybe a new chapter. But for employees trying to work up the ladder, how do they stick out from the rest of the oversaturated, coworkers? How do they present themselves on a consistency to where it kind of points them out further than anyone else in the office?
I think it's a matter of showing up and being present when you're working. Some organizations still want those people that are in their desk from 8 to 5 every day, but the people that are more productive and can get more work done with a higher quality of product are the ones that are going to stand out. And whether it's taking some of your off time and attending development workshops or taking online classes, that can help set people apart. But in preparation, when you're getting ready for a meeting, make sure that you're thoroughly prepared. And when you're in that meeting, you voice what you need to say in a respectful manner. And I think it's great when people want to move up the ladder. They also need to look for mentors. I was thinking about when I was first off in my career, I had some amazing people that were in my corner that would welcome me in anytime I had a question or needed advice. And I implore that people that are in the workforce to seek out those mentors. And your mentor does, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
And your mentor doesn't have to be just like you. Seek out those mentors that may have different perspectives, that aren't like you, that can open up your minds to different ways of thinking. And just really seek them out and knock on their door. And I bet you they're going to be willing to say, yes, I'll give you some advice and I'll take you under my wing.
And everything you're saying kind of reminds me, because I read John Maxwell, and a lot of times he talks about that in his books. And if you really are trying to be an influence, you got to be able to influence yourself to do certain things in order to have these certain kind of results. And I think that's true. What you said earlier about getting things done doesn't necessarily mean it's done right. Getting things done in a way where it's high quality is a major difference. And I think that creates room for more conversation and more growth between employees and employers, because if only one side wants quality, it's hard to drive with three wheels. Eventually, it's just going to work against you. Mm-hmm. And for our listeners, when they are looking to attract possible new career change, what is the best practice for someone to prepare themselves to make that transition to another new chapter in their professional life?
I just recently made a career change, and the one thing that's helped me is not letting boundaries hold me back, not letting fear hold me back. And for me, it was a long road because, starting off on my own, there's a lot of people in my head and in my ears telling me what to do. But then the biggest voice was my own fear, my fear of rejection, my fear of not knowing what to do, my fear of the unknown, and just breaking through that fear has been tremendous. And knowing that everything usually works out, that through perseverance, persistence, and that high quality product, things are going to be okay.
Once again, listen to Focus Radio, talking to our guest, Ann Donovan. You can go to her website, DonovanHRSolutions.com. And I can't help but to think, like, HR, sometimes you can look at that as an employee and be like, I'm not going to bother them. They probably don't want me bothered. They probably got like 10,000 things going on, But like hearing you kind of illustrate the whole process of this, it's like, oh, okay. They're more like a lifeguard, you can treat it in a way where wherever you get out of it is what you invest in. And with that said, I think that's the same with both sides of the employee and the employer is what is being invested by both, not just one-sided, because it can get one-sided, in different, opinions in different ways. But if you look at the whole bigger picture, kind of like what we said in the earlier the show, what's the core? What was the mission, And the more the employee understands that, it's kind of easy to weed out the ones who are not part of the ball game.
100%. And that's okay. Not every employee is perfect for every organization.
Yeah. Man, it was a good conversation, man. Once again, we're talking to Ann Donovan, and with someone listening to this right now as we kind of wind things down, when someone is seeing themselves as a potential, professional in X career, based on what you've seen over the years, what helps an employee, kind of asked this question earlier, but just to go deeper on it, what helps an employee to position themselves to get the fullest experience of the place they work at?
I think for an employee to fully position themselves to get the most out of work is an open mind. And going back to the leadership development that I do, people are looking for leaders that are empathetic and humble. But it's not just leaders that should be humble, but every employee should be humble and have that open mind that they can learn from whomever they're speaking with, that they can, if they put their mind to it, they can really excel. And part of that open-mindedness is being willing to try new things and to take on additional responsibilities and break through that fear, because fear holds back a lot of us. But that open-mindedness and humility is really what somebody can lean into to get the most out of their work.
Once again, listen to our guest today. Her name is Ann Donovan, and you can go to her website, DonovanHRSolutions.com. And man, I want to share this with a coworker, maybe, hint, hint. But when people are striving for goals, kind of touched this with other guests on the show. This one person said it really nicely. She said she found herself going back to the baby steps. And she said reason why is because kind of like what you just talked about, being humble. You know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes you got to go back and repair the foundation in order for you to, go further beyond to where you currently are. Because sometimes we can get too big-headed and think, well, I don't need to learn this, I don't need to say this, or I don't need, be told this or whatever. But you're actually limiting your success for the future if you have that kind of mindset.
Absolutely.
So once again, go visit our good friend and Donovan. Visit her website. Check out what she does, DonovanHRSolutions.com. I want to say thank you for taking time in your schedule to talk to I'm Refocused Radio today.
Shemaiah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking with you. You're really good at what you do.